you're with me online or you're with me one-on-one, that's what I'm going to drill in is, making sure your mechanics are locked in first before we start to address rhythm and timing and approach.
You mentioned the word slump earlier with Baez. What would be a slump buster for him if you were working with him to get him quicker out of through that down period?
Yeah, it would typically be, like I said, it would be making sure his barrel's not dropping. So that would be, we looked at that frame on video, his approach position. I'd probably look at that and see what the angle of his bat is. If it's starting to get a little bit steeper or it's dropping a little bit more than normal, that would be that would be more of a mechanical move or a swing plane move. But more likely than not, I would go back to making sure that he's starting his timing at the right time soon enough. And most importantly, that it's taking the right amount of time. And then sometimes the timing will, be different on if you're looking, say for an off-speed pitch, your timing might be a little bit different. But if you're kind of in fastball mode, you want to compare apples to apples with guys throwing similar miles an hour. And that would be my big concern was making sure he's consistent with his timing, with his load. It probably all looks the same, but if it's taking less amount of time, if he's rushing it, that could be a problem.
Okay. What else would you do? You kind of answered it there, but what else would you do if you were his personal hitting coach? What would you work on with him?
I would definitely work on making sure that we're controlling our barrel earlier in the swing, not in the load. I wouldn't mess with any of that. Like he has to be comfortable, but I would make sure that he could control that barrel and smoke, maybe not in a game, but in batting practice, he could stay on a pitch up and away and smoke a line drive, a backspin line drive into right field. Like if you could add that to his repertoire, for me, that's going to increase his consistency of finding barrels, especially to the opposite field. And then it's also going to find him out in front, because one of the issues that Baez and a lot of players get to is, they get too steep out in front of their front toes. He did not on this swing. That's why it was so good. And pitches that they should hit really well and pull, they top and they roll over and they hit ground balls to the pull side. So that would be that would be my job is his hitting instructor would be to how can we maximize how good and talented this player is,
right?
And what he likes to do. Sit down, have a conversation with this player. What do you like to do with the bat? Like, what is your what are you comfortable as a hitter? Are you a guy that wants to pull balls? You want to get the bat hit out in front? You want to get deeper? What do you like to do? And then, hey, let's try to do this. If you want to shoot balls the other way, try this. How does this feel? This will really open up right center field for you. Or this will increase your pull side power because your barrel's not going to be working up too much out in front where you're going to roll over top spin stuff. So it's taking what wonderful moves that this player has and making sure that his approach fits what he wants to do. Because it doesn't do you any good if he's trying to do damage middle in, or he's trying to get better pulling the ball without rolling over it, but all of a sudden he's letting balls get deep. Like, that's not going to work. Okay. So if you're working on hitting balls, if you want to backspin balls to the pull side without rolling over, we need to practice hitting balls out in front and making sure your barrel's in the right spot. So a lot of times players get, they're like, okay, I'm going to let balls get deep in order to not hook them. And that's just a Band-Aid. We're not fixing a problem. We're going to compound a problem by letting maybe balls get too deep.
Yeah. There's one thing that was very noticeable too on camera. And we talked about the leverage part and the firm front side, and you can see the knees pinching together. The back foot is basically, he's up on his back toe, but he's basically almost off the ground as well with that back foot. And you can kind of tell that he's gaining a lot of ground force. I mean, I shouldn't say gaining, generating a lot of ground force in his swing. What do you think? It's tough to say. What do you think his torque angle would be? I'm very curious about that.
He's probably at close to 40 degrees.
Yeah,
he might
sure.
even be more than 40 degrees. He's definitely in that upper echelon of separation where,
Yeah.
you used to see guys like Miguel Cabrera, as big and strong and thick as he is. He created a ton of torque because his upper body stayed back so well, because his front shoulder stayed down so much. Josh Donaldson's somebody that actually works on that move. He's trying to create that separation. So he was a guy that was up above 40 degrees. We've talked about Correa being 30 or less. That separation is dynamic, though. It's not necessarily just what we look at. It's how much are they gaining? When their hips kick in, are they going from, say, 10 degrees of separation to 35 really fast? Or are they starting during their stride? Are they already at 30 degrees and then all of a sudden their hips kick in and it only goes up 5 degrees to 35? So, it's the move. It's not just total separation. It's actually the creating of that separation, how fast it happens, how much it happens, and when it happens. That is the true measurable. But again, it's not the end all. Like, it's not going to make somebody a Major League Baseball player.